Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. As president of AI Chicago, I am thrilled to be here and represent our 3,500 architectural professional members here in our great city of Chicago, where we have some of the best architecture on the planet. Together, we are the collective voice of the built environment. We are here to champion the things that mean everything to all of you in your everyday lives. Our members work tirelessly every day to define how spaces really connect people and enrich their lives. Today, we're going to be hearing about the Obama Presidential Center, an amazing project, but we're not just going to be talking about how beautiful it is, and believe me, it is beautiful. I had the pleasure of touring it last week, and I was not just struck by all the architectural wonder, but I really felt a sense of impact of this place. It was real civic infrastructure, and it reminded me that architects have a responsibility, and we're true stewards of the public health, safety, and welfare of all of our citizens. Projects like this demonstrate just that. So what you're going to hear from today from these great people, from the team of Tod Williams, Billie, Tsien architects, Moody Nolan, Interactive Design Architects, Michael Van Valkenburg Associates, the Chicago Public Library, and the Barack Obama Foundation. This is a team that is the hallmark of the architectural practice and is the core of what AI Chicago believes in and strives to foster across our city. This project is a powerful commitment to the South Side. It shows the unique ability of architects to take community values and translate them into a physical place that shows inclusivity, equity, and make people feel welcome, everybody. Architecture has the power to bridge divides and celebrate the character of our neighborhoods. The incredible talent on this stage is a testament to the importance of our profession. AI Chicago is deeply dedicated to mentoring the next generation of architects, ensuring that our field becomes more inclusive, more diverse, and even more ready to tackle tomorrow's challenges. AI Chicago is here for you, here to connect with you. If you'd like to know more about what's going on with our chapter, feel free to find me after the presentation or visit aichicago.org for more information. Thank you all for coming and enjoy. And now, please join me in welcoming our co-moderators who are already on the stage here, Joshua Harris and Kimshasa Baldwin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you hear me? With mic on? Okay. Thanks for having us. I'm Josh Harris, Vice President of Public Engagement at the Barack Obama Foundation. I'm excited because we open next week on June 19th. That wasn't loud enough for me. I think you need to do that. We open next week on June 19th. I'm truly honored to be with this panel here. These are people and visionaries who help bring the Obama Presidential Center to life, so I would love to give them a round of applause. But before we dive into who these fine folks are and more about today's panel, I'm going to play a little video for you that shows you about what's to come.
Everywhere we look, there's history to reflect on and history to be made. That's what the Obama Presidential Center is all about. Honoring the stories of those who brought us to where we are today and bringing people together to chart an even brighter future. Here on Chicago's South Side, the Obama Presidential Center will offer old friends and new visitors the chance to explore a world-class museum and gather together for celebrations of all kinds. It will add to the vitality of Jackson Park, adding new gardens, a larger playground, and scenic paths for an early morning jog or an afternoon stroll. And it will do all that while creating jobs and driving economic opportunity here in Chicago and enriching the landscape of the South Side that Michelle and I have called home for so long. I like to think of the Obama Presidential Center Museum as a tribute to what happens when ordinary people come together to do extraordinary things. Inside, exhibits will explore the fullness of the American story. from the promise of our founding documents to the movements that challenged us to live up to them. We'll tell the story of the volunteers who powered our campaign toward history, and we'll examine the 8 years of progress, setback, and hope that followed. You'll be able to walk through a full-scale replica of the Oval Office, relive the moments that defined my presidency, experience the impact of our history-making First Lady, and check out a few of her dresses too. And atop the museum, you'll be able to take in some stunning panoramic views of the city we love. We designed the Forum building with a focus on the creativity and imagination that's always defined this city. Here, we'll host programs and leadership trainings that will support and connect the next generation of change makers here in Chicago to those from all around the world. We'll open the newest branch of the Chicago Public Library, and on the roof, a garden. At the center of it all, a public plaza will welcome visitors for live performances and community festivals. A huge green lawn will be open to throw a frisbee or spread out a blanket. And once it turns cold, we'll open up the best sledding hill in the neighborhood. Of course, it wouldn't be the Obama Presidential Center without a place to play some ball. At home court, you'll be able to not only come together to get active, but to take action. That's the Obama Presidential Center. It couldn't be more important to us that it's happening right here on the South Side. This is the place Michelle was born and raised. It's where I got a start as a community organizer. It's where we bought our first house, built our family, and took the first steps on a journey that's still taking shape today. It's the place we found our purpose. Now we hope to give something back, because you never know where something that starts on the South Side might lead.
I love it. Yes, we'll clap for that. Well, joining me on stage are some of the people who helped define that vision. My co-moderator, Kimshasa Baldwin, who, yes, clap, clap. Kimshasa was the director of design for the Obama Presidential Center, and now principal of Dieter.
You got it.
Colsign.
There you go. Dieter Colsign.
Dieter Colsign. I'm also joined by panelist Tod Williams, a partner at Tod Williams and Billie Architects. The legendary Dina Griffin, president, Interactive Design Architects. Renald Mitchell, partner at Moody Nolan. Matthew Bird, principal at Michael Van Valkenburg Associates. And the Chicago Public Library Commissioner, Chris Brown. So, Tod, let's start with you. As the architect of the Obama Presidential Center, what does this moment mean to you as we get ready to open to the public?
Well, and it means to Billie and to me, it's like our first child going to college. After many years of study, he's or she's off and on their own, and it's exciting, and it brings forth tears too, as you can imagine. It's been such a journey.
Going from that, talk a little bit about the inspiration for it. You know, I know that there was a competition and you guys won it. What was the impetus? What was the inspiration that you guys?
Well, I think this idea of a campus was it. And although we have the tower and everyone focuses on the tower, the fact is it's an incredible campus with individual buildings and, of course, landscape binding it all together. Playground, fun. President Obama wanted to make sure this was not just a serious place, that he and the First Lady wanted to make sure that kids of all ages and people of all ages and places could enjoy it. So, yep, it is an amazing, energized campus.
I do agree. I've gotten a chance to go over there and take a look at some of the things. So now that you've been over there and walked through it, there's so many nuggets throughout, but what has surprised you?
I think it is the energy that people have brought forward, the joy, the tears, the emotion, really, that it's finally happened, that it's their place, it belongs to them. I couldn't have imagined it being so powerful.
You know, we were in the green room and we talked about the opening of the Mexican embassy. Obviously, we're about to open the Presidential Center. Where do you go from here?
Well, I don't know. I hope not retirement, but I would have said, although that something's going to happen soon. I do think that committing myself ever more to people and places that require collaboration and are thinking about the great democratic principles that brings us together. I mean, this is where I'd like to go. This is a journey that's unexpectedly taken me to the pinnacle of that, and I'm sure we can go further.
So Dina, let's shift to you. So as our resident Chicagoan, what has it meant to work on this project?
Wow. I kept saying wow. I've been fortunate and grateful because, yes, I'm from Chicago. I've been living in Hyde Park for 28 years. And for a while, I was living in a place called South Commons. Does anyone here know South Commons?
Yes.
That was my place where I thought anything could happen because we were surrounded by, not only did our development have 5 skyscrapers, high-rises, townhomes, condominiums. 3 of those high-rises had pools in the back, just big old pools. And that's how I learned how to swim. But I don't want to get off track. There was a park across the street with tennis courts, a running track, and that's what I thought should be. We should have access like that to amenities like that. And that's what the Presidential Center means to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now that it's open and people are starting to visit, some people, what do you want them to take away from their visit to the center?
I think just knowing that this is their home too, that this is for everyone. It's not blocked off. You don't need a key card to get in. You don't need special arrangements to be made. You can go visit this space and take from it what you need. Inhale all the amenities that are there.
Yeah.
You know, as one of the individuals that leads community engagement in our organization, it was very important throughout this entire process to listen to community members, to understand exactly what they want and desire in spaces close to them. And so as a Kenwood Academy alum, can you just talk about what this means for the neighborhood?
Again, I just think they're giving the neighborhood options. There's no longer just one way to get something or one way to go, that they have options. They can play at home court, they can go in the tower, they can participate in the programs. That's the biggest thing. And then they can show the world. We were looking at some photos before coming in here and just seeing how people react to this center. And it's unbelievable. It's emotional. And I'm just glad that I had a chance to see it, and I'm glad that my family has had the chance to see it. So that's my reaction to it.
Both of you, Kinshasa and Dina, you've participated in, we have a program called the Future Series at Hyde Park Academy, where it's about, if you can see it, you can be it. So we try to expose young people to great industry leaders, wherever that may be. Our mission is to inspire and empower the next generation of leaders to change their world. So what would you tell up-and-coming young people in this industry? What advice would you give them?
Basically that you can do anything and don't shy away. When I was coming up, I had some difficult times in my, not the profession, but at university. And I just made sure that I went to someone who I could talk to, and we want the same thing for the center. Whatever that issue is, I walked through it and got through it because I opened my mouth, basically, and said what I wanted, and I want people to know that about the center. If you can see it, you can be it.
If you can see it, you can be it. Let's remember that. Let's kick it over. Let's talk basketball. Who wants to talk basketball? Renald, talk to me about the vision for home court and how you approach shaping this beautiful structure on the south end of our campus.
No, thank you, Josh. But first, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Moody Nolan Nation. Moody Nolan Nation is very well represented. To all my teams, and also lots of familiar faces, including new ones that I had the pleasure of meeting this weekend. Looking in the first couple of rows. So welcome again to new friends. First of all, Dina mentioned something. She mentioned South Commons for those of you who are native Chicagoans. In fact, one of my staff actually owns a condo in South Commons. But like Dina, I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. Born and raised, grew up in Bronzeville and in Inglewood, and I'm an alum of Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, which abuts South Commons, and so. This whole experience for me has been kind of a repeated sort of pinch me, kind of moment. But now to answer your question, the first thing we had to do was kind of discuss and really clarify what the possibilities were. Because, naturally, people gravitate to the fact that, there's a large gymnasium and, basketball and President Obama's love, of the game. But home court's so much more than that. And so in the early days of design and programming, we spent an incredible amount of time really in meetings with community and meetings with the Obama Foundation, really expanding the lens of what the possibilities were. So for instance, home court is not just basketball court, it's the largest single format public assembly space on the entire campus, capable of hosting upwards of 1,000 people. I often speak of home court metaphorically as kind of a proverbial Swiss Army knife of sorts. It's a building that has cross utility and has to be able to function in multiple ways effectively. By day, it's a community rec center. You can be playing recreation basketball, host summer camps, and things of the like. Eventually convert to a seminar, in a corporate training, type space. For being able to, again, host, large, gatherings of people, and then by night, being able to dress it up, and put white tablecloths down and really be able to host banquet type events. And all of these functions have to be successful, in the space. And that's not always an easy, balance to strike. Hopefully we've done it well, but really, that's how we approached it, really looking at the broad lens of possibility and really having those conversations to really get to a really functional business case, for it.
I think what comes to mind, as the old saying goes, get you a firm that can do both, right? Thank you for plugging our event rentals. Yes, we can host, corporations and other foundation events, but we also want to make sure that young people have access to opportunity. And this is one way to do that through this space. We recently announced a partnership with After School Matters. And so we'll clap for that. Yeah, so going back to young people coming into this space, what does that mean for you?
Well, again, growing up, frankly, I didn't have a space, like this to retreat to, for recreation and respite. And so it's very emotional, just really, being able to witness and see that. I guess beyond that, I think the magic, in it is that, okay, you've got this collection of assets, called the Obama Presidential Center, and starting with the extremely elegantly designed museum. Those experiences are more curated, as most museum experiences are. But the magic in home court is that by design and by purpose, it's really community activated through partnerships like you mentioned, After School Matters. In the early days of programming, we had extensive conversations with the South Side Y. I know they're going to be hosting programs there and other organizations as well. Ultimately, the goal was to have home court be additive, as an asset to the community and not replace, existing programming, that exists in the community. And so, I think we've successfully achieved that.
So Renaud, I know when you guys were brought onto the job, we were heavy in construction. Things are going wild on the campus, on the north end. There were so many conversations about the design and making decisions, and you guys had to move like this. Talk to me a little bit about any of the challenges that you had to face. What was a unique challenge that you had to take on, and how did you overcome it?
No, great question. And again, just for context, for the group, Tod, Billie, and Dina were well into design development when Moody Nolan, was retained, for home court. And so, to some extent, there was a lot of catching up, to do. But in another sense, it was very liberating because we had a compelling vision, and a precedent established, by Tod and Billie and Michael and Dina, and so above all, we wanted to respect, that precedent. While at the same time, home court's a very different building. I mean, you've got the formality of a museum, and then basically as you transition from that formal experience, it becomes more of a communal one. And so, we were hoping that home court would be able to reference, precedent, but still forge its own identity as a bookend, in the south end of campus. And so, the architecture, in its lines, its angularity, and some of its form making, I think strongly references, the other buildings on campus, but materially it's different, and unique.
So talk to me about one feature of the design of home court that you think is unique from anything else that Moody Nolan has done.
Unique from anything that Moody Nolan has done.
Yes, Moody Nolan.
We've done a ton of multi-purpose, cross-utility buildings, around the country over the years. I think what makes this one, particularly unique and special, is the fact that none of those buildings have ever been asked, to serve the full variety and full spectrum, of functions that this one is. And again, the magic in home court is that it is the proverbial Swiss Army knife, with there's at least a half a dozen different utilities available to you. Again, it's precedent setting, for us, and certainly we think it's going to become a new standard, in that typology moving forward.
Yeah, I do recall floor plan after floor plan after floor plan. So yes, but you guys got it right.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Brown, pull you in here.
Yeah.
Thinking about the newest branch of the Chicago Public Library System, the 82nd branch, throughout that design process, what was guiding you in your push to achieve a vision for this library?
Well, it's incredible that we have a president who, made a choice to say, I want a library that also is a public library, which is incredible. We had a lot of conversations about what does the library of the future look like? What is the library that we need today? And I think we talked about, we wanted a future that was more humane, more about human connection. And so a lot of the spaces are about kind of activating them with partners. So we'll have open mic nights on the green with young Chicago authors. We have the Wiesel Auditorium, and I know we're going to be having the Gene Siskel Film Center and the Black Harvest Film Festival. And so a lot of that desire was to think about, how do we make this space a space for connection and community?
One space I do want to highlight.
Yeah.
The President's Reading Room. It is a magnificent space of curated books, just over 3,000, handpicked by the president himself. Take us into that space. What's so unique about it? Talk to folks about what they would see when they come in.
Well, I think aside from those 3,000 volumes that give you insight into the kind of reading journey of the Obamas, right? Like what books resonate with them, what topics, what subjects. But even beyond books, it's the cultural connection they have. So there's albums by Prince and Stevie Wonder, and there's effects from, their administration, memorabilia. And then there's actual volumes from the president's personal library. So there's like, a book from Pope Francis, ascribed to President Obama. And then there's Gabriel Garcia Marquez writing a personal note to the Obamas as well. And I think that's just so powerful that we get to see someone at the highest level of leadership who's saying, you know, reading, education, books were and are critically important to them and the Obamas. And like, what a message to our kids and to us.
So, Commissioner, is the space in the new library branch set up to be used by more than just reading? Would you say? I know we were looking at some pictures before Dina mentioned, and the way it's being used right now, it's really being activated. How is it aligning with what you envision?
Well, you were there with us getting to kind of design all the furniture, and we agonized over every chair, and it's incredible now to see families coming in, and they're all gathering around, and they're sitting as if it's their family room. They're cuddling with their kids. I was showing them all a photo before we came on, and it looks like we staged a photo, but it's just those families coming in and using that space. But we also have a maker lab, and what we're really excited about is we're bringing in maker experts and residencies like Alt Chicago. So they're in Austin, in Chicago, and they source industrial level plastics, and they build beautiful tabletops that look like they're Italian marble. And then they use maker labs to actually fabricate benches in neighborhoods and fencing in neighborhoods. So it's less about just using a 3D printer, and it's more about how do you use these spaces to bring change home to your neighborhood, which is the whole purpose.
Exactly, you got it. So most of you guys know, you've seen articles at this point, that there's so many beautiful art pieces that are at the center that you will see soon. There's one particular piece that's in the CPL branch. Eliza Nissenbaum does this beautiful mural, and there's so much depth and storytelling in there. What does it mean to have that piece within the library?
We have incredible art in many of our branches. We have a Carrie James Marshall on our regional library on the west side, St. Rock murals in Little Village. But what I think is incredible is Eliza Nissenbaum's, it calls out Chicago notables, features people that are important to the history of our city. I'm not going to give away too many of the Easter eggs. You got to go in and see it. But also in the garden, there's a sculpture by Richard Hunt, his Bookbird. And the fact that dozens of these public art pieces are available at all hours that the campus is open, so people can come in and explore, and you don't need a ticket to see all of that, is incredible.
Yeah, I think that's something that needs to be stressed, because some people say, well, I need to get a ticket. I'm like, you don't need a ticket to go to the campus, just go to the campus. You need a ticket to get to the museum. Otherwise, go, enjoy, go see what's there. So Matt, let's shift over to you. So landscape is often a small percentage of a project. It's usually overlooked. It's like, put some trees over there and some grass and let's call it a day. You can do that with this. Like, the campus is about the landscape. Talk to me about your approach. How did you go into that work?
Well, that really comes out of collaboration with Tod and Billie's office and the foundation early on in the design process. I mean, from early in the competition, it was important that the landscape was a piece of this campus, and how the landscape would interweave with the various buildings, and then Jackson Park and the neighborhood that surrounds the site. Really made it a key piece of how we could make this successful for the community and for the foundation long term.
Can I yeah. My 3.5-year-old approves. He kind of got a chance to poke through and loved it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really an important piece here. Is like, we want this, we want it as designers, and the foundation wanted as our clients, and we're really encouraging of making this a space for families, for school groups, for family reunions. There's picnic areas with grills out on the site. They want this to be a space that's lived in. It's not something that is just here for the tourists to come in and see and then leave. This is a space that needs to engage with those visitors, but is most importantly engaging with the people that are in the neighborhood, the people that can use this space every day.
100%. So I'm originally from the South, and my grandmother had this living room that you couldn't go in, you couldn't sit in.
Yeah.
It was just there. And if you went in there, you got in trouble. No one could sit there. This is not it. We want you to come into the living room, sit down, kick your feet up, and enjoy it. So we're in Summertime Shy right now. Welcome to Summertime Shy for those who are out of town. It's the best time in this city where the city truly lights up. So just talk to me a little bit more about the picnics, the barbecue grills, what you're hoping people come and experience in the green space on those 19.3 acres.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to understand there's a variety of spaces. That's because of the integration with the buildings. We have a lot of topography that rolls through the site, so that allows for these different spaces for gathering, different microclimates within the area. You'll feel, especially walking around the north end of the campus at a certain time of day, it will feel super cool in one spot and warm on the other side. So you get these different experiences throughout the campus. Seeing the transition down into the remainder of Jackson Park at the south, we have this historic comfort station that's right next to the building, home court building. And then right next to that is a big picnic area with lots of tables, lots of grills. We want to see people and smell food when we're out there because it's just going to be a great space to hang out. And then in the playground, this really creates this connection between the library just to the north of the playground and the school over to the southwest. Creates a space for kids to really hang out. I mean, you've got, the museum is definitely something you want to bring your children to, teach them about democracy, teach them about the presidency, but there's only so much they can take in the museum. So it's nice to have that place where you can take a kid afterwards and play in the playground and experience it's integrated with a nature play area right tucked into the landscape. That's really important to teach kids about the area that's around here and give them an opportunity to interact not only with play equipment, but with landscape and plants and the dirt.
So Chicago being a city of parks, right? We have plenty of parks that people can choose from. I know your approach to this was very deliberate and thoughtful in terms of accessibility. Can you talk a little bit about what was that commitment to making sure this was accessible?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun challenge in all design processes to see how we can make these spaces more universally accessible. Especially in the north end of the site is the Women's Garden, which was a historic part of the park prior to our development. And we wanted to be able to restore that area and reimagine it in a way that would be more accessible. So now we were able to salvage some of the historic stone walls and recreate those in the space and create a similar style of garden there, but allow for accessibility all the way throughout. Previously, it was surrounded by stairs and lawns, and you were not able to provide access there. But now it's something that everyone can enjoy. And then in the playground, we have the same commitment. There's spaces that are accessible to people of all abilities. We wanted to make sure that children of all ages and abilities could experience the playground together, not just there's certain things over here and certain things over there. It's all integrated and able to be used by all.
Mm-hmm. That makes such a difference.
Speaking of integration and connectivity, we're now connected to our neighbors just to the north at the Geffen Museum of Science and Industry. Wonderful institution. Dr. Chevy Humphrey is a great partner of ours. And just talk to me a little bit about that connectivity. Now people are able to walk on pathways and walkways that are connected to our campuses.
Absolutely. Early in the design process, the biggest thing that we all recognized was how much Cornell Drive, which was basically along the lagoon in the photo above, all of that landscape was a 6-lane road. So having the ability to take that out and create landscape that connects all the way from the south end of Jackson Park up through the museum really makes an important experience for people to be able to get through the park if you're going to the museum, if you're just enjoying your day, jogging along the lagoon, and then creates that connectivity east to west as well. So there's porosity within the buildings that allows you to connect from the lagoon all the way across Stony Island Avenue into the neighborhood on the west. I mean, that was really important to be able to feel like this is a porous space that people can go back and forth between, and you don't have this wall between the neighborhood that is established by that roadway.
All right. I've had an opportunity to spend some time on campus. As I mentioned, we're opening June 19th. We're also planning a big celebration next week. So we've been there quite a bit, and shout out to Nina on our team, who's sitting right here in the front row, who's been instrumental in that as well. I love being able to be outdoors, and I love that we are adjacent to the lagoon, the wetland walk, being able to see the Osaka Garden just over to the east of the lagoon. You almost feel like you're in a different space. You hear the sounds of nature, birds chirping. It just feels serene. So that's my favorite aspect of the campus. I want to popcorn around everybody here, because starting with Tod, I want you to tell me, what's your favorite part of the campus? What are you excited for people to see?
Well, last week I was here and I checked out my phone how far I'd walked, 8.3 miles. the number of paths and the possibilities of meandering and exploring and looking at the different parts of the campus is extraordinary. So for me, it's that ability to have this pleasure of the whole campus. And I do remember it before, when Cornell Drive was there, and when there's just the running track, and there was the running track and grass and a few trees, and that was it. But now we have all these places to explore. I love exploring and looking.
Got to go to the person who helped create a lot of this, so you got to tell me your favorite space.
So I actually haven't said this out, but Commissioner, CPL is my favorite. It really is. Now that I've really gotten to walk through, and I know those meetings were intense, but I...
Who would have thought? A library meeting.
I love that you were committed. You had a vision of what you wanted to create, and no matter how far we drifted off course, you always said, look, this is what I want to do. And somehow we were able to pull it all together, and it is just sitting in that space and seeing people use it. It has an energy. It's really activated. It's my favorite.
Commissioner?
Okay.
You may be a little biased.
Well, of course, the library, but close second. I have a 3.5-year-old, as I mentioned, and that slide, he loves that slide. And so getting to see that space through the eyes of like your 3-year-old is incredible, and it's his favorite, and so I think it's my favorite.
I love that. Renaud, how about you back there?
Yeah, like Tod, all of it. But in experiencing all of it, there are two vantage points. And actually, those of you who were kind of on the tour on Saturday, kind of got a preview of this. There's a moment, obviously, the sky room, looking south. And then the counterpoint view to that is home court, standing at the mezzanine level as soon as you climb the stairs and looking back north. And from those two vantage points, I think you get the totality, and the grandeur of the vision, that was cast. And for me, it's a really sobering thing, because I think about my younger self, and basically, going to a place like this, again, I keep coming back to the word formality. There was a formality, about it, and that's a good thing, almost to the point of being, maybe a little intimidated, by entering a place like this. And what's been done here and I don't want this to be lost on anyone, is, and I'm going to make a word up here, the experience has been deformalized. And because of that, it's welcoming, it's approachable, it's relatable. And, for me, and I can imagine, scores of young people, for generations to come, having their minds expanded to the possibilities just because of not being intimidated to approach a place like this. And so for me, that's the great gift that the President and former First Lady has given to our city.
Remind me of that word again.
Deformalized.
Got it. Merriam-Webster, take note. Matt.
Well, it's hard for me not to pick the playground. I love playgrounds. I love designing playgrounds, and it's truly fantastic. I'd say the dragonfly sculpture in the playground is really something special. But the other thing I wanted to highlight is the sledding hill, because I think it's important that this space is activated all year. And that was something that Mrs. Obama really wanted. She said she didn't have a sledding hill in the South Side when she was growing up. And this really creates an opportunity to have something that brings people out year round. It's not something that's overly programmed. It's get your kids out here and have some fun. And then it also creates a great space the rest of the year for getting different vantage points around the site, creating space for events and gatherings, and I think it'll be a really great spot for the community.
I love that. Dina.
I agree about the site. The 8th floor is probably my favorite because you're free to meander to this space and to see how the center has now connected the Museum of Science and Industry, the Midway Plaisance, and it's just, every time I go up there, to be behind these powerful words, made of stone, or concrete, sorry. It's an amazing site. It's incredible to see how it all comes together, and this is the center point. Sorry, I'm pointing at the video, but yeah, I would have to say.
Point for you up there.
Thank you. Yeah, it has to be the 8th floor.
I love it.
Okay. So we have plenty of designers out there, and we all know that through the design process, you do not do it alone, especially for a project of this scale and scope. You always have to find good partnerships to work with different people to accomplish the things. And we could probably fill the stage with all the different designers from retail to lighting to
I think we'd
food
need a
and
bigger
beverage.
stage.
Exactly, we would need a bigger stage. So with that, it's always important to collaborate. That's the way we push ourselves to do better, make it better, achieve higher. So talk to me one thing specific to the campus that was made better by way of collaboration.
I was going to say any order.
Todd looks like he's ready to jump in.
Well, those cast concrete words, letters, that was absolutely collaboration from the president, of course, with the words, selecting the words, but being able to create this structure, which is truly extraordinary. These are tied together with microfibers of stainless steel that had never been done before. And I actually do love, as you, to go inside the president's brain as I see it, looking out through those words that were in his head and looking at it from below. To me, that was, this is all new. No one's done it. And it came from the process. The people who made those letters, they were so proud of the execution of that work, and it absolutely was collaborative, from structural engineering to the material science to the people who had to hoist them up on the building and put them in place.
Yeah, and I think everyone's photo now has that in their background, so yeah, well worth it. Renaud.
Yeah, I'm going to shine some sun on folks that are often, maligned, in the design and construction process, and that's our city agencies. With home court, and again, I can recount, and obviously, Kinshasa, you'll remember fondly the challenge of a hyper-constrained site, for home court. I mean, we are, for those of you who care about such, minutia, we are 0 lot line to the south. We are literally right, up on the property line, abutting the Chicago Park District. And so, without a lot of Stony Island street frontage, just mundane things like servicing the building, were uniquely challenging. And that's before you then negotiate a 15 plus or minus foot, grade change between, the sidewalk at Stony Island and the setback line some 25 feet, back. And so our city partners were fantastic, during, before and during the entitlements process. Our part DPD, challenging, the design team conceptually from a landscape design standpoint to make sure that front door, which really, we really approached it as the front door to the community, because we're the south bookend, on campus, and the community is immediately adjacent and behind us. And so really it was a collaborative effort, a team effort to get to a solution that is as elegant as we think it is.
I think the city should now approve anything else you say.
Anybody from the city?
Matt, how about you?
I think the fruit and vegetable garden is an interesting space that really benefited from collaboration. We worked a lot with the First Lady and her team, the First Lady's working group, to develop that design. Sometimes frustratingly, the number of iterations we were doing, but working with them and with the Chicago Botanic Garden, who is operating that space now, really got us to a good point where that design, I think, is going to be a great asset for the campus and will last for a long time.
Okay. Dina?
Well, I can't claim it. It's not my scope, but the concrete letters, I was involved, I was tagging along early on in the process.
Collaboration.
Yes. And it was just, I was blown away at how many people, number one, it took to resolve this, but number two, how beautiful it is. So kudos to TWBTA. Sorry.
All right. Commissioner?
Well, I was probably the collaborator that you guys had to work with. Well, I was probably the pain. But I think we all created that beautiful space, the one that you is your favorite spot now. Working with Tod and Billie Tsien, and the lighting that you all came up with is incredible, and Dina and you on the furniture, and I know I can't believe we had so many tough conversations about seats, but it's gorgeous now. So
It's all worth it now.
we did it together.
It's all
Yeah.
worth it. All right.
I think just on that note, to use sort of a sports phrase or terminology, you don't see what happens behind closed doors in practice, right? So there's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, disagreements. But what happens is when a team comes together on a field or court, right, you see everything start to flow. And so that's what we've witnessed over the last several weeks when we've had guests come for sneak previews where no one knows the sausage making it took to get here. They see the finished product, and what they see is something that they will enjoy for generations to come. So.
Absolutely. All right, I think we're good for questions now.
Don't go all at once here.
Really?
That's it, not all at the same time.
Oh, we do have
There's
one in the back somewhere. Yeah.
There is, way back there.
Hi there. Thank you so much for this, and this is quite an amazing project, one that I think really constitutes the idea of civic design, especially with the president working on it. Can you speak to the practical design challenges of thinking about the maintenance of such a project in an amazing space as this? There will be thousands of people coming, I'm sure. So as a student, our teachers and professors always encourage us to think about those practical concerns. So can you speak to that as well, and what your vision has been for that?
Well, for sure, I love that. we start from the inside out, And we think of, we'd like to build for the eons if we can. We wanted to build this well and with dignity, both as one sees it and behind the scenes. So I would say, having now practiced for more than 50 years, I've come to really respect this issue of durability and the requirements for people to be able to maintain things and to want to love them so that they are maintained. So I would say building with dignity is everything.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that, for home court, with it being a cross-utility, community-activated space, it's going to get used, and it should, and we look forward to it getting used. And so, the materials specified, to Todd's point, were done so, with durability, at the utmost, priority, but also replaceability, because ultimately things will, need to be replaced. And so, basically, being able to tap into products that are readily available or as readily available as reasonably can be, was something that was at the forefront of our design team's thinking.
I want to add one thing, sorry to go on. I think that the people who worked on the site were the best people we've ever dealt with, and they had a huge range and an incredible respect for one another. And when you have respect for one another, you build well. You build for your children and your grandchildren. That's what happened.
I think just from the site perspective, we had a lot of collaboration with the foundation as well, making sure they were aware of the design goals and how they were going to have to maintain this over time. I think that's important, just having those conversations to make sure everyone's on the same page.
I have a question here on the screen. So projects like this often face skepticism or resistance early on. How do you distinguish between feedback that should influence the design and criticism that may simply be resistance to change? Commissioner, you want to take a stab?
Oh, no, I'm not taking that.
You don't want to take that one?
I have a 5,000 square foot ranch. You guys have a big campus.
I think you need to be able to listen, but not to take it too personally, to realize that those criticisms, the resistance, it comes from people with a good heart, and to trust that we're all in this together.
Bernard?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add to that is again, and there's always going to be criticism in life, no matter what you do, no matter what your endeavor is, listening and hoping and trusting that the critique comes from a place of sincerity, intellectual sincerity, and not just being mean-spirited. It can be a difficult balancing act, but to Todd's point, it starts with having a listening ear and trusting yourself and your experience to serve as a filter, to be able to recognize the difference when it comes. And it's an art; it's not a science. And basically, the amount of time that this young man has been doing this, I'm sure he's far more advanced at it than I am. But nonetheless, you get to a place where you can kind of self-filter.
Yep.
Yeah, I will add to that because as designers, we come up with an idea, we work it through in all the different angles, and we put it out there to be received by people. Now, the only thing we can do at that point is observe, and we talked a little bit about this. We step back and we see how people are actually going to use the space or activate the space, and we learn and we grow and we become better. But design is a process. I say this, all the design is a process. So criticism is needed. We need to hear what you like, what you don't like. It only improves the industry.
Yeah, I was on the tour on Saturday. And, I know of Tod. I was thinking more of the sustainable, collaborative conversation throughout the process. I know how much you talked about it on Saturday. I know Tod he's already mentioned natural stone, lowest embodied energy material out there for the most part for its durability. It's easy to maintain, its longevity. I'm just wondering, throughout this process, How is it talked about, how we're going to integrate this campus, these buildings, maintaining it, provisioning it, people coming and going. I used to work in theme parks, and I know how people could just hammer a site and just destroy it. And how are you going to plan for all of that and have it be a longevity, easy to maintain, or not easy, but thing that was going to stand the test of time and be there for the community, but do it in a sustainable manner, as much as we can in design nowadays, to where we're as low of a carbon footprint and all that as possible.
Well, the president set those standards for us. We said we wanted to make this net zero building. Net zero is a kind of a perfect impossibility, but to do the best we possibly can. And we worked through every single one of those. For sure, it costs more, but in the short term. But in the long term, loving something for 500 years, the cost disappears. So we need to build well, we need to build sensibly, and not only do the things that are technically, that can make this operate at a higher level without, with a small carbon footprint as possible, but also to really truly last and be durable over the years. Flexible, actually, as Ronaldo said, everything will change. In 500 years, in 100 years, in 20 years, it'll all change. So we need to be ready for that.
And with the landscape, we built that into our design process and selections of materials, selections of plants, thinking about sustainability and what could be, require less input, less water, less nutrients to be able to thrive in this environment, and thinking about climate change and how can we create a landscape that's going to adapt and be resilient over time was a key part of the whole site design.
I also think we should reflect on the frontline staff that we have on campus operating our facility. So we have landscapers to visitor service staff to security, engineers, all who are helping maintain the property every single day, 24/7. So we've hired just over 150 plus staffers to help with that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and they're committed to it. Not only were they there during the design process, but they're carrying it forward. Their staff dedicated to making sure that we're hitting these markers to make sure that we're not just talking the talk, but it's actually going forward.
Well, looks like we're at time. Thank you for spending just shy of an hour with us today. We appreciate you, but let's give our panelists and our co-moderator a round of applause.